Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Rux, I'm Western Tropical Astrologer, and today we are going to be talking about the full moon in Gemini. This is happening on the 4th of December at 11:13 p.m. GMT time, so of course you can adjust that for your own time zone. The full moon is taking place at 13 degrees 3 minutes of Gemini. What does that mean? It means that if you have in your natal chart planets, angles, important points around 13 to 14 degrees of the mutable signs, you will feel this full moon the most. The mutable signs are Gemini, Sagittarius, Virgo, and Pisces. Who's going to enjoy this full moon the most? Those of you who have planets or angles around 13 to 14 degrees of Aquarius, Libra, Aries, and Leo. The full moon is going to make harmonious aspects with your natal planetary placements. Now, of course, if you don't know what I'm talking about, let me explain. We do not feel every single astrological event. We don't feel it. We only feel the ones that activate our natal chart. What is the natal chart? It is the map of the sky at the time when you were born. And how can you generate your natal chart? By first and foremost knowing what your time of birth is. So you need your date, time, and place of birth. And then you can go online on websites such as astro.com or astro-seek, and you input your data and you're going to get your natal chart for free. And you're going to have all the positions of your planets, of your angles, such as your ascendant. You're going to know the degrees, and then you can keep track of them, and you can make the most out of these general forecasts, out of these general horoscopes. Because yeah, I mentioned the degrees at which things are happening. I know maybe not every horoscope out there on the internet does that. The reason why I mention this is because we will resonate the strongest. Like I said, we will only feel the most the events in the sky that activate somehow our natal placements, which is why it is so important to know where your natal placements are from a zodiacal perspective. Now let's go back to this full moon. First and foremost, my number one recommendation would be have a think about what was going on in your life around the end of May. In May, last week of May, we had a new moon in Gemini. So we are likely to see culminations, we're likely to see peaks and results in the life sector that was at the forefront of our mind end of May. We're likely to see those results and those outcomes and those peaks now in December. I always say pay attention to the 3 days before and the 3 days after the full moon as well, because you might feel the energy building up and you might sort of sense what's coming a few days before. There are actually some astrologers that say that we feel the impact of the full moon up to 2 weeks after it has happened in the sky, and the topics that were brought to our attention around the time of the full moon will be front and center of our mind for the next couple of weeks. So lunations and especially full moons are a pretty big deal. So much to say about this full moon though. So much to say. I've already covered quite a bit in the December horoscope. It is a full moon that is governed by Mercury in Scorpio. Mercury is now direct. It was retrograde in November, so we can expect some of the things that we struggled with in November to get resolved in December, especially around the time of this full moon, and also in the few days after the full moon. If we experienced delays in our lives in November, we may very likely see things moving forward in December, especially around the time of the full moon or after the full moon once more. Mercury in Scorpio is going to be in a harmonious aspect to Jupiter in Cancer and to Saturn and Neptune in Pisces. So we still have this grand trine, this grand water trine going on in the sky. First week of December, we felt it second half of November. We're also feeling it first week of December. We're feeling it around the time of the full moon. So what does that mean? it means that emotions, feelings, needs are likely to flow quite easily. We may find it easier, let's put it this way. We may find it easier to have our emotional needs met. We're likely to feel a sense of inner guidance. We're likely to feel very strongly connected to our intuition throughout the kind of like entire duration of this astrological event, and especially throughout the first week of December. We may feel guided by some sort of a higher power. We might have strong gut feelings. I don't necessarily want to call them hunches. I want to call them gut feelings. Premonitions, dreams, inspiration might flow very easily to us. We may see, and I'm using see in inverted commas, we may see very clearly the truth. So we might acknowledge things, we might realize things, we might see things that we did not see, that we did not understand, that we did not get, that we didn't have visibility of maybe beforehand. So now we have a sense of clarity. We also seem to know at an intellectual level, what it is that we need to do to build moving forward in our lives, to build things on a solid foundation, to grow. We tend to see where it is that we need to grow, and we actually tend to feel quite optimistic about this area of growth and about this sort of direction of expansion. Why do we feel optimistic? Because we're not alone. Because we do seem to benefit from the support of others. We do seem to benefit from the understanding of others. Speaking of understanding, a lot of people are probably going to feel heard and seen. And our feelings are probably going to be validated, and therefore our emotional needs might be much more easily met. We might also have those aha moments where we realize, hey, I actually really need this in order to feel internally at peace. So important conversations are taking place on a deep, sort of like profound level. We are probably going to open up about topics that are maybe difficult to discuss, but very necessary. And I repeat, we're probably going to feel heard and understood. And we might make other people feel heard and understood. We might empathize with others. We might be able to bring a heavy dose of compassion and kindness in other people's lives. We might also be able to talk people out of a state of crisis. Other people might also offer really, 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 really important wisdom when it comes to a state of crisis that we might have found ourselves in. So it can sort of like go both ways. Let's put it this way. It's a fantastic week to meditate, the first week of December. If you are looking for guidance from a higher source, a higher power, set that intention, maybe before you go to bed, maybe around the time of the full moon, and ask to be shown the right path. Ask to connect to your higher self. Ask to be guided by divinity, by God, by whoever it is that you connect with on a spiritual level, on a divine level. From a more practical perspective, topics such as education, commerce, business, communications, the media, cars, transportation in general. So topics such as these ones will probably be sort of like front and center of our minds. This can be a very, very socially active moon, so to speak, socially active lunation. There's a lot of talking that's happening. There's a lot of discussions. There's a lot of conversations. We have to remember that Gemini is the sign of curiosity. So there will be this sort of like energy of like curiosity and open-mindedness in the air. It is a very good full moon to speak up, to send that email, to send that message that you want to send through, to take a bit of a chance in reaching out to someone. It's a great full moon for networking. It's a great full moon for socializing. It's a great full moon for bringing up, as I said, those kind of like stickier topics that maybe at other times have been hard to address. It's easy at the time of this full moon to talk about feelings, to talk about buried issues, to talk about what's really going on a deeper level, to talk about rebuilding, to communicate about the sectors of our lives that need to be transformed, that need to experience a process of rebirth in some shape or form. And also on a mundane level, there can be very significant news about all of the topics that I've mentioned. So education, media, commerce, etc. But also there can be some really big news around investigations that have been ongoing. Important news connected with research. So there may be some really important findings that are shared with the public. And important news about the investment sector, the stock market, and those in power. Whoever holds the power is going to be in the spotlight. And you might say, hey, isn't that the case always, Rex? Whoever's in power just kind of hogs the limelight. No, actually, real power is very rarely seen. It is hidden. It is buried. It's somewhere in the background. It sort of like controls how things unfold from the background. So yeah, it might come to the forefront this time. Also, a little bit more on the astrology of the full moon. I love the grand water trine in the sky. However, Mercury is once again building up to an opposition to Uranus. This has already happened in November. I don't remember the exact date, but let me just see if I can find it in my notes. So Mercury in Scorpio will oppose Uranus exactly on the 10th of December, but we might already start feeling it around the time of the full moon, so around the 4th. This has happened, dun, 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 dun. Let's see when it's happened before. A little song. This has already happened before on the 19th of November. So whatever disruption you've experienced in your communications, in your thought processes, in your trips, in your travels, in your interaction with digital tools, the internet, and so on, technological tools, whatever disruption you've encountered in November, it might come up once more around the time of this full moon, but especially towards the 10th of December. It looks like we really have to think with Mercury in opposition to Uranus. We have to really think outside of the box. So old solutions, old ways of dealing with crisis, old ways of dealing with a topic that maybe we care very deeply about, that we're very emotionally attached to, they ain't working, folks. So Uranus comes in and says, nah, you gotta come up with a more creative solution. You gotta come up with an innovative solution. You gotta come up with a different solution. You can't keep on doing the things that you've been doing so far. So there is also a very high chance of disruption around the time of the full moon, and especially a disruption of our existing patterns of thinking and our existing ways of sort of like mentally approaching specific aspects of our lives. The full moon is also going to be squaring the nodal axis. This is very important. Everything is very important. We've got some really interesting lunations. So this full moon is sort of like placing us at a crossroads. It's saying, are you going to continue to engage in old patterns of trying to solve everything logically and rationally and try to fix things even when they are not your job, even when they are not part of your duties and responsibilities? Are you going to continue to sort of like hyper analyze and be excessively meticulous? Or Are you going to go with the flow? Are you going to stop resisting? Are you going to take things at face value and allow a higher sense of guidance to show you the path? If that sounded like a rhetorical question, it is because it was a rhetorical question, folks. The South Node is in Virgo and the North Node is in Pisces. So we've all got some growing to do at a collective level in the direction of the North Node in Pisces, very likely. And I realize there might be some Vedic astrologers out there or more traditional astrologers that say, oh, this is a super kind of like Western and modern way of looking at the nodes. But the reality is that in the sphere of sensation, in the 3D reality, the reality is that the South Node is a point of dissolution and loss. The North Node is a point of concrete materialization and of bringing things into incarnation, of kind of giving shape to things. So yeah, just making you aware of this fact. Before we go into the update for each of the 12 zodiac signs, which obviously we are going to do, I do have to say this, please listen to the update for your rising sign, not for your sun sign, for your rising sign. And if you don't know your rising sign, of course, you can listen to the update for your sun sign. Also, for those of you who are new here, I would like to share the fact that I'm a full-time consulting astrologer. I work with clients one-to-one on a day-to-day basis. It is I consider it my mission to help people reconnect with their soul's intentions, to help them make the most of the timeline of their life. So if you are at a crossroads, if you're looking for answers, if you're looking to understand your life path better, if you're looking to understand what the future holds in terms of archetypal energies, in terms of the cycle, the cosmic cycle that you're in terms of the life chapter that you're in, then it may be a good time to consult an astrologer. And if you want to work with me, you can find the link to my website, which is written in the stars-astrology.com, in the description box and in the pinned comments. If you're a new client, the 1 hour, 15 minutes Zoom consultation is the option to go for. If you're an existing client, you know that you have other options as well, such as the 30 minutes follow-up. If you have like a few specific topics that you want us to dig into, or if we haven't spoken in a year or around a year, then the year ahead forecast is the option to go for. Written in the stars-astrology.com. And now, without further ado, let us jump into the update for Aries suns and Aries risings. My lovely Aries, 4th of December, 3 days before, 3 days after, you've got a full moon activating your travel axis and educational axis. This could be a time when you complete a class, a course, when you wrap up a learning process. Now, it may feel like this learning process is really, really important when it comes to how you are of service to others, when it comes to how you help others in crisis, when it comes to how you deal with other people's crises. I also believe that you might be paying for something connected with your education. So you might be, I don't know, making the last payment or sort of like finally dealing with any existing maybe student loans. So there could be some money going towards your education, some form of a lost kind of like payment. There's also a possibility you might finally bite the bullet and say, okay, I'm signing up for this course. Let me make that payment. Let me secure my my spot. This can also be the time when you make a significant payment towards a trip. Maybe you purchase plane tickets, or you secure the hotel booking, for instance. I do believe you might need to talk to some people about either your education or about any form of traveling, because it feels like you're not necessarily traveling alone. And if you are in an educational sort of like setup, it's not something that you're doing fully and completely on your own. So maybe if you're traveling, you need to sit down with your spouse and say, come on, what hotel are we booking? Or how much time are we spending in this location? There is a possibility you might also have an important conversation around money with either a partner. It could be a life partner, it could be a business partner, but it could also be a family member. The conversation can also be about other more kind of like challenging topics. Maybe it's a conversation about inheritance or legacy, or an issue that has been kind of like kept under wraps. Is it likely to go well? Yes, I do believe it's likely to go well. I also believe it may be time to address it so that it can be released, both from your psyche as well as maybe from your parents' psyche, from whoever else in the family it is that you are kind of like talking to about this issue. There can also be news coming up from siblings around this time, and they might let you know, hey, I'm moving, or I'm relocating, or something big is happening in my family life. Last but not least, you may move forward with an important sale. So you might be buying something, or you might be purchasing something. I do believe it's something that maybe has taken a long time to finalize. And maybe it's cost you some headaches in the process, but alas, here you are, almost at the end of the whole process. My dear Taurus suns and Taurus risings. Full moon in Gemini, 4th of December, active 3 days before, 3 days after. It activates your financial axis, and therefore the spotlight is going to be on money. You might be paying someone might be paying you. It does feel like you might be reaching an agreement with a business partner, or with someone that, I repeat, maybe you need to pay or they need to pay you. Maybe you are, I don't know, a life coach, and you are entering into a 6 months sort of collaboration with a client. So I feel like there's agreements happening around money and finances. There's also a possibility you're having an important conversation with either a partner or a friend or even a boss around what matters to you, what is important to you, what you truly value. And I do believe that this person is probably going to make you feel heard. And you might even be very surprised to see that they have a totally different reaction than the reaction that you thought you would get out of them. So sometimes people are going to surprise us. It does feel like you might be delivering a tiny little bomb to this person, metaphorically speaking, of course. So an unexpected piece of information is what you could be sharing with them, but I feel like they will take it better than you thought they would take it. So have some faith, have some trust in people. If you need any sort of like help and support from a financial perspective, and it doesn't mean that you need money from anyone, maybe you just need someone to guide you on how to pay your taxes, for example, I would not hesitate to reach out to either, like I said, a friend or even a sibling. I feel like they could help you with this financial issue. I also believe you may stop paying someone, or you might reach some sort of a new financial agreement. Maybe you only want to work with them part-time, and therefore the financial aspect of the collaboration needs to be reviewed. That is very possible. Gemini suns and Gemini risings. Full moon in Gemini. This is all about you, Geminis. This full moon is putting the spotlight on you. 4th of December, active 3 days before, 3 days after. You are at a crossroads, Geminis. You probably need to you probably need to choose what you're going to focus on. I'm just going to say it. And to me, it looks like this is your time to consciously choose building upon your existing sort of like career foundation. You haven't had the easiest of time career-wise. It may be the case that you've either dealt with a lot of tests and difficulties, especially Gemini risings, or with a lot of responsibilities when it comes to your career as of 2023, as of the spring of 2023. Now it looks like you're finally kind of like reaping the fruits of your labor. But you can only reap the fruits of your labor if you continue to invest in what you've built so far. And if you say, okay, I'm making a commitment and maybe I'm taking once again the foot a little bit off the pedal when it comes to my personal life, maybe when it comes to spending a lot of time at home with the family and so on, you might be making this decision because you've sort of like reached a summit, you've reached some sort of a peak professionally, and it hasn't been easy to reach this peak. So do give yourselves credit. That's my first recommendation. You could actually be stepping into a very important role work-wise around this time. You could be kind of like sharing with the world that there's some big changes happening career-wise, and they're changes for the better. I mean, your career is sort of like going from strength to strength, if you ask me. And if there are any Gemini risings listening to this and thinking, oh, I don't have a job, or how does this affect me? You don't have to listen to me. Obviously, you have free will, but this is your time to get that job that is going to make you feel valued and appreciated, and that will help you grow both from a skill set perspective as well as from an educational perspective, and in terms of trusting your capabilities and skills. So Geminis, I do believe there's something to celebrate professionally. I do believe you've got reasons to celebrate. I do believe you may need to focus increasingly on the place and the role that you sort of like play in the world from a kind of like public perspective. There's also a possibility that something is kind of like really nicely coming together around this time from a health and wellness perspective. So if you've been making changes health-wise, if you've been investing in your health, if you've been prioritizing healthy habits and so on, you may feel like you have hit your goal. You may feel like you've really hit your target, and maybe you're finally free of some of the old patterns of self-sabotage that you've been carrying around with you in your psyche. You might also feel like you're breaking away from, I'm going to call it a story that you've been telling yourselves about yourselves in terms of who you can be, the life path that you can take, and so on. It's an exciting time, Geminis, and it is your time to, I repeat, it is your time to shine. It is your time to give yourself credit, and it is your time to say, hey, I deserve to be where I am. My dear Cancerians, Cancer suns, Cancer risings, full moon in Gemini, active 3 days before, 3 days after the 4th of December. Cancerians, it's happening in your 12th house, so I feel like you're a little bit tired. I feel like you need to wrap something up, maybe at work, maybe in terms of whatever's been giving you sleepless nights, insomnia, and whatever's been giving you anxiety, whatever's been sort of running around through your brain. You need to give it a rest, and you probably need to mentally rest. There is a possibility that you might literally be taking some time off, or you might be feeling a bit drained and exhausted, therefore you might need to take some time off. There is a possibility that something could be coming to a close work-wise, but also health-wise. If you haven't been taking care of your health physically or mentally, then guess what? It's gonna come to your attention. And I also believe that you are in a very, very good spot where, if you're struggling from a mental health perspective, if you're struggling to take a break, if you're struggling to relax, the solution is literally next to you. The solution is, I dare say, very obvious. Maybe you just need to spend more time playing, having fun, doing some of the activities that you enjoy doing, talking to the people that you enjoy talking to, spending more time with your partner, spending more time with your kids. So I believe that the antidote is kind of in a very accessible place, let's put it this way, Cancerians. There is a possibility that some hidden information could come to the surface. I'm just going to say it. The 12th house is the house of the things that we didn't see coming. This information could be connected with kids, if you have kids. It could be connected with maybe whatever children have been keeping from you. If you've been dating someone for a short period of time, then there is a possibility that you might find some things that are not necessarily super palatable. You might find out information that maybe contributes to you distrusting the person that you've been dating. So you may see the true colors of someone. Some of you might let go of an existing romantic partner. I'm not speaking of people who are married. I'm speaking of people who are sort of like in a relationship, maybe for like a shorter amount of time. So maybe like a few months. You might become very aware of your own patterns of self-sabotage, especially as they relate to romantic love and as they relate to the concept of pleasure. So what gives you pleasure? Now, a great way to use this full moon is to maybe take a break, potentially travel, maybe go to a concert, go to the theater, spend some time with a friend, spend some time with your kids, like I say, do something cultural. And speaking of friends, there is a chance, because first week of December, actually until the 10th of December, when it is exact, Mercury is going to be opposing Uranus. There is a chance you might take a bit of a step back from a friendship. And maybe it's something that you've been meaning to do as of November, or maybe it's sort of something that already crossed your mind, especially around the 19th of November. Your attitude and your ways of like thinking about friendship are probably shifting as well. Speaking of friendship, there's a possibility that someone might have been talking about you behind your back, and you might hear of it. Now, it could be a friend, it could also be a colleague, a work colleague. That doesn't mean that they've been sabotaging your work, but they may have betrayed your trust. But I believe that knowing is power. So it's much better to know than to be in the dark, if you ask me. Also, be very mindful of your incessant mental chatter, because that can lead to feeling drained. Relax. Enjoy some time with loved ones. That would be the best way to take advantage of this full moon. My dear Leos, Leo suns and Leo risings, 4th of December, active. 3 days before, 3 days after, we've got a full moon in Gemini. Oh God, Leos. This is a very interesting full moon because on the one hand, I believe you are very happy with how something has turned out. I believe you have achieved a goal. You may have achieved a goal connected with your home life, your family life, your private life. You may have achieved a common sort of like goal with someone. Maybe you've been working on something with a partner. Maybe you've been, working towards buying a house with your significant other. It may feel like you've ticked the box. At the same time, you seem to be a little bit at a crossroads when it comes to the financial implications of this goal being achieved. So what now? Are you going to keep investing in this thing? Are you going to direct your money elsewhere? What are you going to do? Are you going to ask your partner to pay for more? Are you going to revisit the financial kind of agreements that exist within an important partnership? Financial agreements are probably going to be in the spotlight. I think money is going to be part of the talk. And I believe something might need to change when it comes to financial agreements, dynamics, the way that resources are allocated in your home. There is a possibility you might have the money and the resources to help someone financially, maybe accomplish their goals. It could be that you're, maybe helping a parent renovate their house, or you are maybe supporting them with your time and your energy and your resources. However, is that going to be what they expect you to do moving forward? Do you still want to keep on doing that? Have you drawn a strong boundary around that? How do you feel? That is the $1 million question, Leos. So talk about these things. Once again, I believe there's going to be way more empathy and understanding on the other side than maybe you expect to find. There's also a possibility that whatever is happening in your home life, whatever you're achieving at home, might be kind of like taking you away from your existing professional path and your existing interaction with public life and society in general. That's not a bad thing, but it is something to acknowledge potentially. You might be catching up with friends also. You might be welcoming them into your home, or you might be visiting friends in their home. And speaking of friends, there is a possibility that a friend is experiencing a massive transformation in their home life and family life as well, such as becoming a parent, for example. That is very, very likely also. My dear Virgos, Virgo suns and Virgo risings. 4th of December, active 3 days before, 3 days after. This full moon in Gemini puts the spotlight on your career sector. I mean, I believe you are achieving something major career-wise. Some of you could be getting a promotion. Some of you could be receiving a massive offer. I was trying to word it correctly. So I feel like you are stepping up the career ladder, Virgos. That's the way I would put it. Now, you could be stepping up the career ladder from a practical, pragmatic perspective, such as saying yes to a new offer, a new opportunity, experiencing a breakthrough. I was about to say breaking in, but that means something else completely. Experiencing a breakthrough when it comes to your work, maybe in a different sector, in a new industry. You could feel ready to change sectors, to change industries. You could have clarity as to how you really want to contribute to society. You might actually have some really important talks about your career path moving forward, and the talks are very productive. They're very inspiring. You could feel a strong sense of inspiration after communicating about your goals with a mentor, with someone in a position of power, with a boss. You could be sharing, speaking of bosses, you could be sharing your career goals with a boss, and you may be very pleasantly surprised to see that they're incredibly supportive. They want to see you succeed. They want to see you achieve your goals. They even want to see you succeed, let me phrase it this way. They may be supportive of your success, even if it means that you're making their life a little bit harder. Because let's say you want to go down a different path, you want to maybe work in a different department, and as much as maybe on a practical level that messes up with their kind of plans, they see why that would be good for you. Whatever it is that you want to ask from bosses or authority figures or people in positions of power, ask away, because it shall it shall be given. That's how I see this. Even if you did not expect to get a yes. There is a possibility that some of you might see a boss leaving or changes in leadership. However, I would not be stressed about that at all, Virgos, because whoever is coming in, you seem to communicate with them very well. You seem to get along with them very well. You seem to build very strong relationships with whoever is coming into the leadership space for you. So I like it. I like it. Is it possible that you might also need to travel around this time for professional purposes, or maybe when it comes to what feels like a bit of a duty? Yes, there is a possibility, and maybe because you need to travel now, you need to change other plans that you had made. So maybe you need to cancel some existing appointments, for instance. So that is Virgos. My dear Libras, Libra suns and Libra risings. 4th of December, active 3 days before, 3 days after. This full moon in Gemini puts the spotlight on your 9th house. You're traveling, Libras. I mean, you could be traveling or planning to travel, or talking about traveling, or paying for your plane tickets, or paying for your accommodation. You might also be very focused on your path of learning and studies, and generally your academic experience. I believe you might be paying for something in this space also. So maybe paying for a class, a course, maybe if you're in university, paying for your tuition. Speaking of speaking of university and higher education, you could have some important conversations with people that you look up to, such as people that you kind of like admire intellectually, people who you have a lot to learn from, and whatever you talk about with them seems to determine you to appreciate yourselves more, to appreciate more what you bring to the table, to appreciate more how you are of service to other people, to appreciate more how you can make yourself useful in this lifetime. And sometimes it's not all about the intellectual input. I mean, obviously, having the knowledge is significant. You might also realize that you've got the knowledge. Maybe you're graduating around this time. Maybe you are completing a course. So you've got the knowledge, but that's not all that you're bringing to the table. What you're bringing to the table is emotional depth, compassion, an ability to handle strong feelings from other people, an ability to handle crisis very well in a very intuitive manner. There's a lot more that we have to offer to life, to other people especially, than just information. I mean, we live in the era of information. We can Google things, okay? I don't want to sound really basic, but the reality is that information is power, but it is not everything. And you might realize that around this time, Libras. If you are waiting to hear back from a court of law, from a legal institution, from, I don't know, the institution that needs to send you updates about your green card or foreign visa, you may hear news around this time. There may be an unexpected expense. There may be an extra expense. I'm just gonna say it. There is a possibility you might also around this time be planning a trip or thinking about traveling for professional purposes. And this could also be the time when you collaborate with someone overseas. But there's also a chance you might revisit collaborations on an international and sort of like global level. Career-wise, you're doing very well. And I believe you have the sort of like bird's eye view of where your career is headed. And you can think really strategically, if you ask me. Scorpios. Scorpio suns and Scorpio risings. 4th of December, active 3 days before, 3 days after. We've got a full moon in Gemini. Scorpios, you deal with crisis really well. You deal with chaos really well. You deal with secrets really well. You are fantastic at keeping secrets. More secrets might come up. They might see the light of day around this time. Now, the secret could be about, well, it could be about a few people, a few different kind of like sets of people. The secret could come up about yourself. So something that you've been trying to keep under wraps might be visible for the world to see. If that is the case, then you might be very pleasantly surprised to see that the reaction is actually quite positive and no one's judging you and no one's, like, metaphorically speaking, jumping at your throat and saying, "Oh God, how could you hide this from us? What is wrong with you?" So your fear of talking about this issue may be completely dispelled and dissolved, and it might feel like you are dissolving some really important karma here as well. Secrets can have a lot of power over us. There might also be secrets, however, coming to the surface in relation to a friend or a romantic interest. Now, this is where you might decide, based off of whatever you find out, you might decide as to whether it's worth continuing to invest in this romantic relationship or not, or whether it's worth continuing to invest in this friendship relationship or not. Whatever you decide, you seem to be mentally really at peace with it, and you do seem to get this kind of like higher guidance from, I don't know, divinity, a higher power. It could even be someone that you look up to, maybe a life coach or a mentor of some sorts. I feel like their advice and their sort of like input is going to be incredibly useful and is going to really resonate with you. You might also be talking about a very important topic to you. It could be connected with your passions and hobbies. It could be connected with your love life. It could be connected with the experience of having children. And it may feel like a weight is lifted off your chest if you do that around the time of this full moon. Geminis, around the time of this full moon in Gemini, Scorpios, forgive me. Not everyone is going to understand where you come from, and that's okay. But you're going to feel at peace. That's how I see it. Last but not least, on a more practical level, there can be news coming up around a loan, a mortgage, a credit card. You might pay off a mortgage, you might pay off a credit card, you might pay off an important debt, or you might also get someone else to pay you back whatever it is that they owe you. And you can sort of like feel a sense of relief in that regards as well. Sagittarius suns and Sagittarius risings, full moon in Gemini, active 3 days before, 3 days after. We are seeing the spotlight go to your house of relationships, partnerships, collaborations, and interactions with other people. So this full moon is saying, well, it's saying a lot of things. First and foremost, it's saying, what do you need to talk to with your significant other, if you have a significant other? What is it that you need to reveal to them? What is it that you need to get off your chest? Now, they might get something off their chest, and it could be something that's been causing maybe a little bit of like tension on a day-to-day basis at home. Maybe it's been causing this sense of feeling like not all is right within the relationship. So the dynamic of the relationship can change after the truth sees the light of day. There is also a possibility, especially if you're in a relationship, that a partner might give up on something. So they might give up on a job, they might let go of a job, they might also let go of something that is very unhealthy for them, such as an unhealthy habit. So the partner might be releasing something, and it could be that their mental health actually sees a significant improvement after this. There is a very high chance that you might need to talk about what comes next both in your home life as well as in your career sector. You might need to talk to important people who will be affected by this. You might need to speak about what comes next. So these important people could be parents, they could be a spouse, they could also be children. So important conversations about what's changing are sort of front and center of your mind, Sagittarians. I believe that significant people in your life that have caused you headaches. So let's say your competition, adversaries, opponents, and sometimes opponents are really close to home, so they can be people in the family. They're done. They no longer want to oppose you. They no longer want to fight you. They no longer want to change your mind. They are no longer pushing against you. So there is a chance that an adversary is sort of losing strength, and it might even feel like they are willing to cooperate with you right now. Now, like I said, the adversary can be someone really close to home. It could be your spouse, for example. Last but not least, if a partner has been dealing with some financial challenges. Now, it could be your life partner. It could also be a business partner. It could be a client if you work with people one-to-one. So if they've been dealing with financial challenges, they no longer seem to be dealing with them from now on. They seem to have found a solution. Maybe they found help. Maybe they found someone to support them. So I like this. Last but not least, there is a chance you might stop working with someone, but it feels like you are very at peace with the decision. It could be someone that you've been working with on the business front, but it could also be someone that you've been working with on the health front. So you might decide to stop collaborating with your existing personal trainer, for example. My dear Capricorns, Capricorn suns and Capricorn risings. Full moon in Gemini, 4th of December, active 3 days before, 3 days after. This puts the spotlight on your work and service axis as well as your health axis. Dun, 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 dun. So, few things going on here. You might be wrapping up a job, or you might be wrapping up a work project. So you could be finalizing it. It's done. Woohoo! You're almost there. You're almost there. Maybe this gave you headaches. Maybe this has been causing some tension, some friction in your relationships with colleagues, with coworkers, with clients. But you are almost at the sort of like finish line. Now, if you wrap something up, you may decide it's no longer worth you working on these kinds of projects moving forward. So you might say to your supervisor or your manager, I did it, I made it happen, but I am also done. I no longer want to be a part of this. There is a chance some Capricorns, especially Capricorn risings, might be handing in their resignation. It's possible. It is very, very possible. If you are, it's also probably because there's something else that you've got lined up. Maybe you've had an important conversation with, I don't know, like a recruiter or an old client that you can go back to working with. So if you are giving up on a job, which sometimes can happen, I believe it's because you already have something lined up. If you are looking to give up on a job, I believe this is a great time to speak to people, especially other people who can bring opportunities into your life, because they will most likely have something for you that feels like a much better fit than what you're doing so far. Health-wise, important talks about health, both physical and mental, are taking place right now. It does look like there's health practitioners, maybe doctors, maybe therapists in your life that have some good answers for you, some good recommendations, and also some good recommendations in regards to what you need to shift, what you need to change. You could also be wrapping up a course of treatment around this time. That's, again, very, very possible. And it may feel like the treatment has done what it's supposed to do. If you have been delaying or postponing going to the doctor on a health-related matter, maybe it was on your radar also second half of November. I mean, obviously, this is not medical advice in any shape or form. Please take this as entertainment only, purely for entertainment. That's why I'm sharing these insights. If there's been anything wellness and health-wise on your radar second half of November, maybe it's finally time to go get it checked and know exactly what you're dealing with. And that's when you're going to know, okay, this is what I have to do. The solution, the kind of course of action is very obvious, it's very visible, and you also seem to get super good advice and recommendations from whoever it is that you are talking to. Last but not least, I feel like your mentality is shifting around working with people. So your way of working is going to change because the way that you relate to work is changing as well. And sometimes you, as frustrating as it might be, you realize that the work is not the task at hand. So not the spreadsheet that you have to fill, for example. The work is the people. You have to work on building good relationships with the people. Aquarius, suns and Aquarius risings, full moon in Gemini. This is nice. 4th of December, active 3 days before, 3 days after. This is putting the spotlight on your 5th house, which is the house of fun, celebrations, parties, enjoyment, passions, hobbies, children, love, romance. I know, I'm doing this thing with my hands. I mean, it's a full moon in Gemini. Gemini rolls the hands. Go figure. I believe there's a party somewhere out there for you, Aquarians, and I believe you will get invited to it. Maybe you're thinking, oh, I've got so much work to do. I'm super busy. And the thing is, you are very busy. The thing is, you are jam-packed with work. You got a full agenda. So you might not be in the mood for work, but you might not be in the mood for partying because you have other duties and responsibilities. However, it looks like if you do go to a social event, a social sort of like occasion, there may be some either kind of like good ideas, good inspiration, or good conversations that are happening that will also help you work-wise. There could even be some work opportunities that come out of you, I don't know, going to a party or saying yes to the invite to someone's birthday. I believe you can also celebrate something work-wise around this time because it feels like it's come to life. Maybe it hasn't come to life perfectly. Maybe part of you thinks, oh God, I should have done more of this or more of that or spend more time on this. I would not let your inner critic, or maybe an outer critic, because there can be people who criticize your work from the outside. I would not let them rain on your parade. You are having a parade. You should have a parade because you are doing fantastic work and you need to give yourselves credit. And it looks like the people that matter are genuinely appreciative of you. You might also be presenting to the outside world an important creative project. And for the most part, I actually see the feedback being fantastic and also very likely to result in maybe more financial opportunities. You feel valued. You feel like people understand the message that you've tried to send across. I repeat, there could be someone close to home, maybe a family member, maybe a spouse potentially, that doesn't fully maybe appreciate what you've created in the way that you wanted it to be appreciated. That doesn't mean that you haven't done a good job. Last but not least, Aquarius risings especially. If anyone's trying to have a baby could come around this time. A pregnancy could come up. Secondly, if you have children already, your child could have or could give you a reason to celebrate. So your child could experience some form of a victory. Maybe they are achieving something big from an educational perspective. Maybe they're also achieving something big educationally and whatever they decide to do next sort of like takes you by surprise. So maybe they've applied to several, let's say, universities and they get accepted into several of them, but they actually go for the option that you never really saw them going for. If children have been experiencing, if you have kids and if they've been experiencing any issues health-wise, they are probably going to dissolve after this full moon. That's how I see it. And last but not least, Pisces suns and Pisces risings. 4th of December, active. 3 days before, 3 days after, we've got a full moon in Gemini in your house of home, family, and living situation. Okay, so a few things could happen here. Definitely the spotlight is placed on home and family and what's going on in your private life. You might be talking to a parent or a partner, your significant other. You might be talking to them about what's coming up next for you as a family. You might be discussing travel plans. You might be discussing big goals for the future. You might be discussing joint goals for the future. You might also be discussing about some sort of like fun plans that you are maybe excited to get involved with together with people very kind of like close to your heart. There's a possibility family might travel to see you around this time, or you might travel to see family. Some of you could be moving into a new home or selling a home, or maybe deciding with, again, not on your own, that seems to be the theme, deciding with the people that you love where you're going to live next or what your home life is going to look like next. I also believe you could be talking about sort of like more abstract topics such as how do you want to raise our kids, or what sort of school are they going to go to, or if maybe you and a partner come from different cultural backgrounds, what sort of a spiritual kind of like path or like faith are we going to raise them in, and so on. So these can all be topics of conversation around this time. A lot of chatter at home, a lot of talking. Like I said, a lot of phone calls, potentially. This, I mean, the way that I would take advantage of this energy is throw a party in your home or invite all of your family and friends, and give yourselves permission, Pisces, especially Pisces risings, to let your hair down a little bit. I have to say, it is a very social time. It is a very kind of like fun time, a lovely time. You might also just feel like you're ready to, now that you've done your duty, let's put it this way, towards other important people in your life, you're ready to spend more time on the things that matter to you on a personal level. And you might actually have that aha moment where you realize, hey, Maybe I've been neglecting myself, or maybe I've been putting myself last, or maybe I've been sacrificing myself for the sake of helping everyone else. And everyone else is grateful by the looks of it, which is great, because sometimes you help people and they're not grateful. And that's okay. We should never help people with expectations in mind. Whatever we do, we should do it for ourselves, including the act of helping someone else. We do it because that is the type of people that we are, not because we expect something in return. That is a transaction. It's a contract. It is not actual help. I'm saying it louder for the people in the back, not necessarily for Pisces risings, I'm saying it for whoever needs to hear it. But essentially, you've helped others. Now it's time to help yourselves. You may have some aha moments around what actually makes you happy after talking to people close to home. If you're traveling around this time, or if you do have family traveling around this time, do keep in mind that there can be travel disruption. Just saying it because Mercury is kind of like starting to oppose Uranus. Also, travel plans can shift. That's okay. Maybe for the better. Very likely for the better. So if any changes do happen, remember that they're probably going to be for the better. And that is Pisces. Folks, I want to thank you once again for tuning in, for listening to your full moon update, full moon in Gemini update. Do let us know in the comments how this full moon plays out for you. And remember that if you want to work with me, you know where to find me, written in the stars-astrology.com. It's in the pinned comments. It's in the description box, the link. If you're active on Instagram, on TikTok, I'm also active on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Rux Unbelievable. In one word, it's the same handle on TikTok as well, but I post more regularly on Instagram. I really like posting on stories. So now you know where to find me on Instagram also. And if this content is interesting, if it's useful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share, subscribe, and you can also turn on the notifications button, which is the little bell that tells you when I post new videos. Thank you, and I will see you next time. Bye.